There's a hidden financial reality no one ever told you about, and once you understand it, everything you think you know about the global economy starts to unravel. Because somewhere, tucked away in off-ledger accounts, private trusts, and sovereign shadow vaults, sits a mountain of wealth so massive it makes the entire US GDP look small. We're not talking about the money you can track on public balance sheets. We're talking about the real money. The hidden trillions, quietly accumulated, strategically concealed, and completely unaccounted for. And the most terrifying part? You were never meant to know any of it existed. Let's start with what we can verify. In 2001, then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld made a shocking statement. The Pentagon could not account for over $2.3 trillion in defense spending. The very next day, 9/11 happened, and the story vanished. That number has since grown exponentially. By some estimates, the Department of Defense has failed audits totaling over $21 trillion in untraceable adjustments. Where'd that money go? It wasn't spent on tanks or jets. It disappeared into classified black budgets, private military contractors, and deeper still, into systems we'll likely never see. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Multiple investigations, including leaks from whistleblowers and international finance insiders, point to a network of global collateral accounts, sovereign wealth reserves established after World War II, supposedly to stabilize global economies. Accounts so large they allegedly hold quadrillions in off-ledger gold, bonds, and historical assets. These aren't stored in commercial banks. They're stored in off-book custodial accounts held under non-disclosure. Accounts that central banks, royal families, and old-world dynasties still control, silently and without oversight. Sound far-fetched? It's not a conspiracy. It's math. Just look at how many trillions of dollars get printed, borrowed, and moved around globally with no visible origin. The IMF, the World Bank, BIS, all of them run numbers that imply wealth exists somewhere. But no one can trace the source, because the source was never public. And that's the hidden truth. There's a tier of wealth that lives outside the financial system we see. Some of it is ancient, extracted from colonies, stored in royal vaults, or buried in the legacy accounts of collapsed empires. Some of it is modern, generated from black market trades, derivatives contracts, and off-ledger financial engineering. But all of it has one thing in common: you were never supposed to benefit from it. And yet there are whispers growing louder that this hidden wealth may not remain hidden forever. That in the face of rising global debt, collapse in fiat systems, and irreversible inequality, the stage is being set for a financial great reveal. One where suppressed assets are reintroduced to the public balance sheet, where hidden gold is used to back new currencies, where debt is cleared not by austerity, but by asset repatriation. Call it what you want: Neshra, Gassara, a reset, a revaluation. But behind the scenes, sovereign entities are preparing for something seismic. Central banks are repatriating gold. Nations are quietly exiting the U.S. debt trap. And multiple financial systems, including the rumored QFS, or quantum financial system, are being built in parallel to the SWIFT system we've known for decades. If you think this is all internet fantasy, ask yourself this: why are trillions being moved off-chain, off-ledger, and into untouchable trusts? Why are military and intelligence insiders warning of domino events tied to financial disclosure? Why have countries like Iraq, Zimbabwe, and Vietnam maintained undervalued currencies for decades, while insiders accumulate them quietly? Because if the hidden wealth becomes visible, everything changes. The debt-based system collapses. The tax structure collapses. The illusion of scarcity collapses. And most importantly, power collapses. That's why it's been kept secret for so long. Because when people realize the world has been artificially poor, while mountains of wealth sat frozen behind legal walls, the entire structure of control starts to crumble. But here's a part no one expects: the leak is already happening. Private vaults are being audited. Sovereign gold is being reassessed. Digital systems are being aligned for instant value transfer. And every day more and more people are waking up to the fact that the numbers never added up. You weren't crazy. You were early. The elites didn't want you to know. But you do now. The question is, what do you do with that knowledge? Do you wait for permission? Or do you position early? Because when the financial veil finally lifts, the people who've done their research, who've studied history, and who built strategies that align with what's coming will be in the strongest position of their lives. This isn't financial advice. It's financial awareness. Understand the mechanics of hidden wealth. Understand what it means when quadrillions in assets have been locked out of the public for generations. Understand what happens when that lock finally breaks. Because if even a fraction of this wealth is released, it will rewrite every rule of the financial world. If you want to be on the right side of that shift, subscribe to Wealth Signal. Because they've hidden the truth long enough, now it's time to reclaim it. But here's what most people miss. It's not just about the hidden gold or undisclosed trust accounts. It's about the architecture that allowed that wealth to remain concealed for decades. A system of legal language, financial instruments, and strategic misdirection so advanced that even seasoned economists are unaware of its existence. We're talking about global custodial treaties, private banking networks immune to FOIA requests, and diplomatic shadow agreements that allow assets to be moved without a trace, all under the guise of national security or sovereign privilege. These structures weren't built overnight. They were engineered over generations. And the families and entities behind them don't operate in boardrooms. They operate through foundations, multi-layered legal veils, and non-governmental organizations that never appear on public ledgers. And now, in the age of blockchain, they're adapting, because programmable finance threatens the entire scaffolding of secrecy. Once value becomes transparent, traceable, and accountable on-chain, the illusion of control begins to break down. That's why the battle is intensifying. The legacy system is trying to digitize without revealing the truth. That's why CBDCs are being rushed to market. That's why institutional crypto rails are being deployed before open protocols can take hold. They want control of the next layer before the old one collapses. But here's the good news. You're not locked out. In fact, for the first time in history, individuals have access to tools once reserved for sovereign entities: cold storage, tokenized assets, private settlement rails, encrypted ledgers, and digital proof of reserves. You can see what's coming. You can track it. You can prepare. Because the truth is no longer buried. It's surfacing. One transaction, one leak, one broken NDA at a time. And the closer we get to the reset, the more pressure builds to release these assets back into circulation, not as handouts, but as strategic rebalancing. Some call it fantasy. Others call it inevitability. But soon, no one will be able to ignore it. Wealth is not disappearing. It's just been hiding. And now it's coming home. If you're ready to understand the real story behind the global economy, the one they buried beneath decades of lies, off-ledger transactions, and sovereign secrecy, then subscribe to Wealth Signal. We break down the suppressed strategies, track the invisible shifts, and expose the mechanisms they never wanted you to learn. Because in this new era, knowledge is leverage. And timing is everything. Subscribe now and stay ahead of the reveal.